Hello, and welcome to Circulating Conversations, the podcast where we discuss library topics, genre deep dives, and book recommendations. I'm your host, Rachel, an Adult Services Librarian, and this is my guest.
Hi, I'm Deb Bussinger, and I'm the Library Program Coordinator.
Thank you for joining us today, Deb.
Glad to be here.
So today our topic is going to be about a traveling Smithsonian exhibition that we are hosting here at the Leesburg Public Library called Voices and Votes. So to start off, I'd like to ask you, Deb, what was it like applying to have that exhibition to be hosted here and working with the Smithsonian to bring the exhibit to the Leesburg Library?
Well, it's been an honor, first of all. To work with Florida Humanities and the Smithsonian teams has been truly a highlight of my career here. I am so inspired by the importance of what the Smithsonian does as an organization and the high-quality products and writings, arts, and culture it provides. And working with the Florida director of the Smithsonian team has been a joy. The process was competitive. It was a grant writing process that started about a year and a half ago. And we wrote a long proposal and had some community support and submitted it and found out in January that we had won one of the 5 positions in Florida to host the exhibition. We were thrilled.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. So do you specifically pick the dates that you want? Because you said that you found out in January, and now we're in November.
Yes. When the application is being filled out, there's 5 sets of dates for you to choose from, and you put in your first, second, and third choice. So we looked at that, of course, very carefully, and we wanted to have the exhibition before the election. We thought that it would make sense to have this education for the community before the election happened. And when we won the spot, we found out we were opening a week and a half after the election. And and I called the director at the Florida Humanities to discuss, to see if there was any room for movement. There were 3 other historical museums that won spots, and Cape Coral Library in Lee County, who won the spot where it was happening at their library during the election. And we found out the reason why is because people had to walk through the exhibit to get to the polling place that is at the library.
All right.
Totally understand how that made sense, and I'm sure it was just spectacular. So then I started thinking, well, they weren't going to move on a date. And then I thought, we have so much time starting in January to lead up to the exhibition with programming and events. And it all started to make sense, and we're excited about the timing. And then because the election was, intense, this is a really good time for people to learn more about our history of democracy and the radical idea of it from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely still relevant because, I mean, it opened not that long after the election anyway.
Right, right. Yes.
So the Smithsonian offers a wide variety of exhibits through their traveling program. So did you specifically choose Voices and Votes over other potential topics, or was that the one that was being advertised through the grant? How was that decision made?
There are opportunities for exhibitions that are on a local level, a state level, and a federal level all the time. And I would just look and bring some proposals to our director to see if this is something that she would be interested in, and most of the time the answer was no. So I would go in with my proposals, say, here's one coming, this is one that we could go for, no, no, no. And then when this one came along, she said, yes, let's go for it. Because the grant writing proposal process is lengthy. It takes quite a bit of research into demographic data and getting community support and political support, all of that. So you have to be careful and choose very carefully. So it was being advertised just as any other exhibition was being advertised, but this one stood out, especially in an election year. And yes, so we found it just by consistent looking and decided to go for it.
All right. And then can you tell us a little bit about the Voices and Votes exhibit and its main themes?
Yes. The exhibit examines 250 years almost of the American experiment of a government of, by, and for the people, and how each generation since continues to question how to find a more perfect union. It really is a springboard for discussions. So there are 5 main themes and 5 main displays. The first one is called The Great Leap, and this is when opposition to Britain's actions grew and resistance was led by everyday people. This section shows the Declaration of Independence, which was a revolutionary. The Great Leap is also the name of the permanent display at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And this exhibition is the traveling exhibition arm of it. It travels through 3 states simultaneously. It is also going to be retired after this.
Really?
So not only did we get the last spot in Florida, but we have the exhibition is going to retire. They're going to revamp it, change it up a little bit.
Oh, wow.
But it will be
really
retired.
lucky.
So we were very lucky, yes. So that was the first theme. The second theme is called A Voice, a Vote. This is about gaining the vote, demanding the vote. The nation's founders didn't foresee the great diversity of Americans that now cast their ballots. They envisioned a world in which propertied men voted on behalf of the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So this section is about the expansion of voting rights. The third section is called The Machinery of Democracy. I found this so interesting because I hadn't really thought about it this way. This is about informal institutions and activities that are not spelled out in the Constitution that help make America's participatory political system possible, such as like the parties, the campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
conventions. They all form ideas. They use visuals, symbols, musical messages, elaborate speeches, and this section is a showcase of images. It's quite interesting.
Right.
The fourth section is called Beyond the Ballot, and it's about the right for people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. It's a favorite section of mine, too, I guess they all are,
Mm-hmm.
as there is a freestanding screen showing the many protest signs over the decades. You tap on the screen on one of those protest signs, and it shows you the context of why that protest was happening, what was happening in our country during that time. It's
Yes.
really interesting because you can remember some of these protests, don't remember the reason why, so love
Right.
that part. The fifth one is called Creating Citizens, and it's about defining citizenship. What about a shared national identity? How diverse should the country be? What are the rights and responsibilities of citizens? And, there's been an ongoing tension between welcoming newcomers to help enrich society
Mm-hmm.
and fearing that the character of the nation may be changed. So this section examines the teaching, history, attempts at national standards, and the debates around this subject.
Yes. Now, going back to the fourth section where you mentioned that interactive map, there are a few interactive elements throughout the exhibit. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yes, there are quite a few. Along with the protest signs, there are citizenship questions where you can take a couple of questions in a citizenship test and just flip it and see if you got it right.
Mm-hmm.
A flip book containing cartoons used during particular historical periods, which are now culturally offensive, but at the time, that's what they were using, so that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the ever-changing but somehow staying the same TV political ads.
Yes.
And there are many more, and in my opinion, those really are the best part of the exhibition.
Yeah, they're really fun. I know, too, they have that kind of music player, too,
Mm-hmm.
of like classic American songs as
Yes.
well. Like obviously the Star Spangled Banner or America the Beautiful and stuff like that you can hear a little snippet of that too.
Yeah, they're like, a minute or so long, and
Mhm.
there's 7 or so choices. One of them is the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it is done classically, and it's fun. It puts you back in that period.
Yeah, and I also like the other tap screen. It's I think the first one you come across in the Great Leap section where it'll list some stuff that they were discussing at the Constitutional Convention, if it was going to be ratified or not. So I think they give you like 5 things, and they'll have you choose, oh, did that end up being ratified, or did it kind of get thrown out into the dustbin, and then it'll give you an example. And I think what made me laugh when I did it too is quite a few times I saw Alexander Hamilton suggested this. It was thrown out. I saw that quite a few times. That just made me laugh. But it was fun because, again, it tests your knowledge as well.
Yes.
So in your opinion, what do you hope visitors will take away from their experience with the exhibit?
There's a couple of things that I think that people will take away. One is that young kids can go through this too. It really is aimed at ages 9 and up. But that doesn't mean that younger kids can't go through it with their families. But they really can learn history. I'm confident that people will take away a fresh sense of the fact that their voice matters, that change is inevitable, and it's crucial, really, to a democratic system. And I feel like people will feel empowered again. They will also see what an amazing library we have.
Yes. Yeah, and like you said, it also is an opportunity to have discussions too with in-groups and the people walking through it to maybe talk about what voting means to them and what it means to participate in our democracy in this country.
One thing that we have that's not part of the exhibition from the Smithsonian, we have the 2000 Votomatic voting machine that caused the hanging chads. And this was given to us by the Cape Coral Library from Lee County. Lee County was one of the counties that used the Votomatic 2000 machine that had all of the counties had to be recounted because of this hanging chad problem. So it's really cool. It's something you should check out when you come to go through the exhibition. Because it is just a real big piece of history, and it shows what happened during that election too. So another way for education for people who may be too young to remember it, or maybe wasn't part of it at all, or it's something that still stands out in your mind. I wasn't in Florida at the time, but I remember the whole thing very well.
Right, yeah. I walked through the exhibition with my mom, and I would have been quite young in the 2000 election, but I do, vaguely remember, hearing about what happened and, the controversy surrounding that, and then probably when we had this exhibit is when I specifically learned about the hanging chads and what happened, and then when we were walking through and my mom saw that, she was like, oh, that brings back memories. She wasn't in Florida either at that time. We were in New York, but she was like, oh yeah, that brings back memories of that happening and everything.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that people will take away, because there's a little summary sheet that you can take and reread about what happened, but it came down to 537 votes that determined who was going to be president. So it's another example of your voice matters, your vote matters, and it counts.
So how will the library measure the impact of the exhibit, the exhibit Voices and Votes, on its visitors, and what kind of outcomes are you hoping for?
The measurement is based on several things, and it's overall based on numbers, such as, attendance to the exhibition. We ask that people sign a guest book and how many people were in their party, and we use that as part of measuring. Attendance to the surrounding programming that we've had all year, and we'll have a little bit going into February. How many programs are offered, the type of media that we use to promote. But the engagement is also measured, and we have feedback, surveys, casual discussions, social media interaction, and more. Through all of those ways that we measure, we're expecting the number to be about 5,000 people who will have interacted with us either by coming to it, watching the virtual tour, which is soon, and just being a part of the programming and events that have happened and will continue to happen. So that's our goal. It's a big number.
I would love it to reach that many people or more.
Well, I'll let everybody know.
So why do you personally feel that libraries are the perfect place to host an exhibit like Voices and Votes?
I really think it's ideal. I think libraries are ideal venues for hosting because they are community hubs. We prioritize education, accessibility, engagement. Libraries serve diverse populations and provide a neutral space where individuals can explore topics like democracy and civic engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Libraries often have resources to complement the exhibit, such as books, archives, and knowledgeable staff. In fact, we have a recommended reading list and display right at the beginning of the exhibition, so people can choose if they would like to take out books that relate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of a better place, like, if not actually going to a museum to have something like this than a library. Because like you said, it's something that anyone from the public can enter, and a community hub, as you said.
Right.
So,
yeah, and how many people don't ever get to experience the Smithsonian?
Right.
They can't travel to Washington or just don't, it isn't part of their life. And so they can come here for free and see this fantastic exhibition and know that the Smithsonian is the one that put it together and know the quality. You can see it immediately when you walk into it.
Oh, absolutely. I think the exhibit looks gorgeous. And it
really
feels
is.
like you're walking into part of a museum. So,
and our library in particular is ideal. We were lucky. I don't think that the people who built the library were thinking, this will be a great exhibition space. But it is the space that we have it in. It's on the second floor. It's got a lot of windows. It's called the Florida Room, if you're familiar with the library. Very big space. The exhibition itself takes up 650 square feet, so it's pretty big, and that room is about 800 square feet.
Yeah, it fits perfectly in
there.
there.
It fits perfectly.
Where it's not like cramped or anything. You feel like you have room to walk around it.
Right.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
So how does hosting an exhibit like Voices and Votes fit into our library's broader mission and vision for community engagement?
So hosting an exhibit like this really aligns with the library's broader mission and vision for community engagement by fostering lifelong learning to encourage civic dialogue and strengthening connections. It provides opportunities for patrons to explore important societal themes such as democracy and participation in an inclusive and accessible space. By hosting such events, the library demonstrates its commitment to serving as a cultural and educational cornerstone. This is a chance for everyone to benefit from the Smithsonian who wouldn't otherwise be able to travel, like I mentioned. Yeah.
And so what role do you think libraries can play in preserving and promoting civic education, especially in a time when access to information is so crucial?
Yeah, this is vital. Libraries play a vital role by serving as a trusted sources of information, and spaces for critical thinking. In our era, where misinformation is spreading easily, libraries provide access to accurate, reliable resources. It empowers individuals to make informed decisions. We host programs, discussions that encourage engagement with civic topics and help patrons understand their rights and responsibilities.
Yeah, I do think that's really important today because, like you said, misinformation, disinformation is just absolutely rampant because of social media and the internet. So I think people do need to know that they have a place where they can go that they can find, factual information or at least, speak to someone who can help them with their digital literacy and figure out how, they could take skills home to figure out, is what I'm reading trustworthy? Do I need to question this? Do I need to do some research on my own to make sure that what I'm reading is factual?
Absolutely.
And that's what we are here for as a librarian, as librarians. We're here to provide people with that information.
And this library is I'm sure all are continuing to keep up with current AI issues that are going to be causing misinformation, but also are a benefit, So we'll be able to educate people on that. I'm sure we'll have a program on that coming soon.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So how long will the exhibit be here at the library, and can you tell us about any related programs or events that we're hosting in conjunction with Voices and Votes?
It's on view until January 11th, and it's open during all open library hours. So it's Monday through Thursday from 9 to 6:30, and then Friday and Saturday from 9 to 4:30. It's free. It's self-guided, but we also have staff ready to help take people through the exhibit when requested. We can take small groups through. we have 6 people who are trained as docents to take people through the exhibit if you would like. But what we really do is show you how to get through the exhibit and then go on your self-guided tour, because you'll see, it makes sense when you see it, but the last thing you're going to want is somebody standing over your shoulder telling you things that you're trying to read and listen to and see and interact with. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to take in. So.
Yeah, so we just give people a little bit of instruction on this is the best way to get through it, and we can help you with that. So yeah, it's open until January 11th, every day except for Sunday.
Yeah, I'm glad we have it for so long too. I actually looked at the Smithsonian exhibit website to see like how many topics they do have, and I saw that like some are like smaller ones that only last for a couple months, like this one, and then there are ones that people keep for like years in their space, and I thought that was so interesting.
That's true. Another interesting thing I just thought of as part of this exhibition, this was originally set to go through Florida in 2020. We did not apply for the grant then, and so we weren't on that roster. And when they decided to pull it because of COVID, they had it set up at the first location in Florida when they decided to let's pack it up. The Smithsonian actually went on a hiatus, and so they reopened it as if it were a brand new process for the grant writing request. That's how we got it.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
So the stars really aligned.
I think so.
And then, is there any programming that we'll be having in conjunction with it?
There is. You can check out our website to look at our events calendar, but what I wanted to mention that's coming up is we are hosting Dr. Stephen Knoll. He is the Florida Humanities Scholar on this exhibition. So with each state humanities association that partners with the Smithsonian for this exhibition, there's a scholar that they choose who will be the person to go to for knowledge, and he is going to be here. His name again is Dr. Stephen Knoll. He's a professor at the University of Florida, an author. He's well known for water in Florida and a lot of other things. He's going to be doing a program called Florida 1 month after the general election, and it's on Tuesday, December 10th at 1 o'clock. And he will be talking about what does the Florida specifically political landscape look like now. And what's interesting is that we set this program up well before the election. It was probably in May when we booked him for this time, and this is what it's going to be. So he said, well, I'm not going to be able to write my program until the election. Right. He will be able to wing it. He is an engaging speaker, really one that I would recommend. So again, Tuesday, December 10th at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't realize that they did that, what you said of like choosing someone in the state to kind of be that go-to for like information on the exhibit. That's interesting.
Yes, yep. He was part of our training. We all traveled. There were the 5 of us who won the spots. All traveled to the first location, a historical museum in Tampa, and that was going to be the first location. So we all traveled there for a day-long seminar on setting it up. Actually, it was 2 days. Setting it up and learning more about programming, going through it ourselves as if we were patrons, and he was there, and it was just fantastic to listen to him and to know that he was going to be support for us, and then to have him here for a program. So we're really happy.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Deb, for talking about this. It's something that I'm sure our library is super proud of, that we get to host for the community, and I'm glad that we got to use this opportunity to get the word out a little bit more and, hopefully get more people coming to see it.
I agree. I am very pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
And thank you, everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and join us again next time on Circulating Conversations.